Broken trust is one of the most exhausting problems in life. At work, it's the teammate who says, "I'll handle it," but never does. At home, it's the partner who promises change, but slips back into the same habits. Online, it's leaders who talk about values, then act in ways that betray them. When trust cracks, everything takes more energy, every task, every conversation, every plan. You double-check what should be simple. You second-guess what should be certain. Confucius was blunt about this: if a man have not trust, we do not know what he can do. Without trust, nothing else stands, not leadership, not friendship, not family. But the reverse is also true. With trust, you can carry weight you never could alone. People follow you without being forced. Families stay steady through hardship. Teams achieve more with less friction. So how do you become the kind of person others can lean on? Here are 10 Confucian rules for trust, rules that show how to be reliable without bravado, strong without hardness, steady enough that others feel safe around you. 1. Guard the small promises. The people will not stand by a ruler who is not trustworthy, even in small things. Confucius lived in an age of fragile kingdoms. Alliances rose and crumbled. Rulers swore loyalty in one season and betrayed it in the next. But it wasn't always the dramatic betrayals that destroyed states. Often it was the quieter failures, the road that was promised but never repaired, the tax that was pledged to be reduced but quietly ignored, the appointment that was delayed again and again. The cracks began as whispers: "He does not mean what he says." And once people stopped believing, no amount of soldiers or gold could hold the state together. That same principle operates in our daily lives. Trust rarely collapses with one grand betrayal. It erodes by drops: the forgotten email, the promise to call that slips, the "I'll be home by 6" that turns into 9 without explanation. Each may feel small in isolation, but together they carry a corrosive weight. Think of two people you know. One always follows through. If they say they'll text, they do. If they say they'll arrive at 8, you can set your watch by it. Even when they can't deliver, they tell you clearly, "I won't be able to make it, but here's when I can." Around them, your shoulders drop. You don't need to double-check. You don't wonder. Their word carries weight. Now think of the opposite. The colleague whose calendar invites are always tentative. The friend who cheerfully commits but rarely turns up. The leader who promises big things in meetings but never reports back. You adjust your expectations. You send reminders. You build workarounds. And slowly, without saying it aloud, you stop leaning on them. The erosion is invisible at first, but it drains energy from everyone around them. Confucius' wisdom is stark: treat the smallest promises as if they carry the weight of kingdoms. Because to the person receiving it, they do. When you tell a child you'll play after dinner and then don't, you've taught them something about your reliability. When you assure your team you'll review a draft and then ghost them, you've chipped away at their trust. These aren't trivial, they are the foundations of whether others can believe you when it really counts. Reliability doesn't begin with heroic acts. It begins with the Tuesday night promise you keep, even when you're tired. It begins with the call you make, though you'd rather let it slide. The people who build reputations that last decades are not those who shouted loudest, but those whose word held steady in the smallest things. Practical ways to guard the small promises. Keep fewer promises, but guard them fiercely. Don't scatter yes lightly. If you agree, mean it. Say what you mean, even if it disappoints. A clear no is kinder than a false yes. Close your loops. Reply to the message, return the book, follow up after the meeting. Every completion is a break in your credibility. Confucius would remind us, trust is not won in speeches. It is built, or destroyed, in the daily rhythm of promises kept or neglected. Guard the smallest ones, and you guard the very core of your reliability. Point 2. 2. Speak less, do more. The superior man is modest in speech, but exceeds in action. Among Confucius' disciples, none was more eloquent than Zigong. He could charm a room with his wit, sway nobles with arguments, and impress strangers with polished rhetoric. His tongue won him quick admiration, but Confucius grew uneasy. He warned Zigong that eloquence without substance was brittle, bright in the moment, but fragile when tested. True respect, he said, came not from the shine of words but from the weight of deeds. That lesson echoes through history. Entire courts were swayed by ministers with clever speech, only to collapse when those words never translated into justice or reform. Smooth speech could fill a hall, but it could not hold a state. And it is still true today. Modern life rewards performers, the bold pitch deck, the sweeping vision, the confident interviewee who promises everything. But how often have you seen it play out? The colleague who dazzles in meetings, then scrambles in silence when it's time to deliver. The leader who lays out grand strategies, but never follows through. At first, people applaud. Over time, their applause turns to quiet doubt. They nod in the room but stop depending on the person behind the show. Now picture the opposite. The colleague who speaks rarely in the meeting, but whose work is already sitting on your desk when promised. The manager who doesn't flood the room with declarations, but who is known for handling problems steadily, one by one. That person doesn't have to demand respect. Their reliability commands it. Confucius' wisdom is not a call to silence. It's a call to alignment. Say less, do more. Underpromise, overdeliver. Let others discover your reliability through action, not performance. Respect is not secured with noise, it is earned in quiet consistency. Practical ways to embody this principle. Resist the urge to impress by saying yes to everything. Every yes is a promise. If you scatter them too lightly, you hollow them out. Choose carefully, then commit. Make your word measurable and modest. Don't say, "I'll get this perfect solution soon." Say, "I'll send 3 options by tomorrow." Clear, modest promises leave room for you to exceed expectations. Surprise in the right direction. Deliver earlier than asked, more thoroughly than expected, with greater care than required. Those surprises form the bedrock of trust. Let silence build weight. You don't need to have the last word in the room. Let your work speak. People may not remember your speech, but they will not forget your reliability. Over time, those who boast loudly fade from memory. Those who deliver steadily remain. Silence becomes stronger than speeches, because deeds endure. 3. Correct mistakes openly. A man who has made a mistake and does not correct it is committing another mistake. One of Confucius' disciples once tried to defend himself after slipping in ritual practice. Instead of admitting the error, he wrapped it in excuses. Confucius cut him short. To make a mistake, he said, was human. To refuse correction was to double the fault. For him, the cover-up was worse than the stumble. This lesson mattered in his time because rulers often built their reputations on appearing flawless. Mistakes were buried, failures denied. But the people always noticed. And once they knew their leaders would not admit wrong, trust drained away. We still live with the same temptation. We fear that confession makes us look weak, that saying, "I was wrong," will lower our standing. So we spin, deflect, or stay silent. But the irony is that refusal to admit mistakes erodes trust faster than the mistake itself. Think of a workplace. A manager misses a deadline. They can pretend it was someone else's fault, or they can admit plainly, "I missed this, and here's how I'll fix it." The second path strengthens the team's confidence. People think, if they'll admit this, I can believe them on everything else. Think of a family. A parent overreacts and raises their voice unfairly. If they pretend it didn't happen, the child learns that authority means never admitting fault. But if the parent kneels down and says, "I shouldn't have spoken that way, I'm sorry," the child learns something far stronger, that integrity matters more than pride, and that respect flows both ways. Even online, this principle holds. A public figure who corrects themselves openly, who says, "I misspoke, here's the right information," earns more credibility than one who doubles down in error. The correction doesn't weaken them, it shows that truth matters more than image. Confucius' wisdom here is clear: trust is not born of perfection, but of correction. People don't expect you to never fail. They expect you to face failure honestly. Practical ways to live this out. Admit quickly. The longer you wait, the more suspicion grows. A fast, plain correction cuts gossip short. Pair the apology with a plan. Say, "I was wrong, and here's how I'll repair it." Correction is stronger when it includes action. model vulnerability as strength. If you're in leadership, your openness to correction teaches everyone below you that honesty is safe. The refusal to admit mistakes breeds fear and distance. Admitting them openly builds credibility and respect. As Confucius might put it, a stumble is forgivable, but pretending you never stumbled is not. 4. Hold values steady, even if methods change. The gentleman understands what is right, the small man understands what is profitable. Confucius' lifetime was marked by political chaos. States rose and fell in quick succession, and rulers often surrounded themselves with advisors who told them whatever was convenient in the moment. When Confucius was asked to bend his values to fit such expediency, he refused. In one court, when a ruler demanded that he endorse a corrupt practice for the sake of quick advantage, Confucius walked away. Better to lose his position than to trade justice for short-term profit. Yet for all his firmness in principle, Confucius was not rigid in method. He adapted his teaching to each disciple. Zilu was brash and hot-tempered. Confucius spoke to him with discipline, urging caution and restraint. Yan Hui, his most virtuous student, was quiet and contemplative. Confucius gave him encouragement rather than correction. The value was the same, the cultivation of virtue, but the path was tailored to the student's nature. That balance is still rare today. We are often tempted to sacrifice our values for profit, convenience, or popularity. A business says it values employee well-being, then quietly rewards overtime and burnout. A leader proclaims fairness, then makes exceptions for the powerful. Families sometimes fall into the same trap, telling children to be honest, but teaching them to cut corners when it suits. People forgive adaptation. They do not forgive hypocrisy. A teacher who changes the lesson plan to help struggling students is respected. But one who bends the grading rules for favorites loses trust. A manager who alters a project deadline to preserve quality is believed. But one who changes standards depending on who asks is not. Confucius' teaching is that reliability comes not from rigidity but from constancy in values. The gentleman understands what is right and adapts methods to uphold it. The small man, by contrast, understands only what is profitable and shifts principles to fit his gain. Practical ways to live this principle. Define your non-negotiables. Write down the values you won't trade: honesty, fairness, respect, so when pressure comes, you already know your line. Adapt methods to context. You may change how you speak to a colleague, a friend, or a child, but the value of respect should be consistent in each. Explain your adjustments. When you change tactics, say why. We're moving the deadline to preserve quality. Transparency preserves trust. Flexibility in method shows wisdom. Constancy in values shows integrity. Confucius held both, and that balance is why his students trusted him across every trial. 5. Align words and deeds. If names are not correct, language is not in accordance with the truth of things. For Confucius, few failures were as dangerous as the gap between words and reality. He saw rulers who announced laws against corruption but quietly took bribes themselves. Others proclaimed benevolence while treating their people with cruelty. To him, this was not merely hypocrisy, it was disorder. When words and deeds pulled apart, society itself unraveled. If people could no longer trust that justice meant justice, or that law meant law, then language itself became hollow. And when words lose meaning, trust collapses with them. This principle is as urgent today as it was in the warring states. We see it in workplaces where leaders declare, "We care about well-being," while rewarding those who burn themselves out. We see it in families where parents preach honesty, but children watch them lie to neighbors or relatives. Online, we see it when brands post slogans about fairness or sustainability while their practices contradict every word. At a smaller scale, the same dissonance erodes everyday trust. You say, "I'll be home in time for dinner," but arrive hours late with no word. You promise to listen but keep scrolling on your phone. Each gap between words and action sends the same message: my speech is decoration, not commitment. Over time, those around you stop listening. By contrast, when words and deeds align, even modest promises gain weight. If you tell your team, Fridays will be meeting-free, and you hold to it even under pressure, they learn your words are real. If you promise your child you'll come to their performance, and you show up on time, they learn that your word can be leaned on. Alignment gives language gravity. Practical ways to apply this principle. Check your words before you speak them. Don't commit lightly. Say less, but mean it. Audit your values. If you say you prize rest, but glorify exhaustion, either change the message or change the practice. Close the loop. If you break alignment, acknowledge it. I said I'd be home at 6, I wasn't. Here's why, and here's how I'll make it right. Repair preserves trust. Confucius' warning is sharp: when names and reality pull apart, trust disintegrates. But when words and deeds walk together, trust flourishes. People don't just listen to what you say, they believe it, because they've seen it proven. 6. Protect confidences. The gentleman seeks harmony, not gossip. In the courts of Confucius' time, gossip was a political weapon. Courtiers whispered rumors to undermine rivals, twist reputations, or curry favor with rulers. Confucius despised it. He avoided slander himself, and when he saw ministers who thrived on stirring suspicion, he advised rulers to dismiss them. For him, breaking trust in speech was as corrosive as breaking trust in action. Words could be daggers, and once released, they could not be recalled. This is why Confucius tied trustworthiness not just to what you do, but to what you say, and especially what you keep unsaid. To be reliable, he taught, is to be a safe harbor, a place where another person's words or vulnerabilities can rest without fear of betrayal. That lesson carries immense weight in modern life. At work, a colleague confides frustration or doubt. If you turn their words into your story at the next meeting, you've broken more than confidence, you've broken the foundation of teamwork. But if you listen, keep it private, and offer support, you build credibility as someone safe to turn to. In families, a teenager shares a struggle or a secret. If you immediately broadcast it to others, even with good intentions, they may never open up again. But if you protect their trust, and choose carefully when and how to act, you show that your care can be trusted as much as your authority. Online, the temptation to screenshot, to forward, to share private messages is constant. But every time you treat private words as public, you signal unreliability. Every time you resist the urge, you strengthen your reputation as someone whose word is a vault. Confucius' point is simple but sharp: reliability is proven not only in what you say, but in what you refuse to say. Practical ways to protect confidences. Treat trust as property. If someone entrusts you with their words, consider them on loan, not yours to spend. Pause before repeating. Ask, was I given permission to share this? If not, stay silent. Model discretion. In teams or families, show that private words stay private with you. This encourages openness, which in turn deepens respect. Correct gossip by absence. If someone tries to involve you in slander, step away. Refusing to join is itself a signal of integrity. Confucius knew that gossip eats communities from within. But protecting confidences strengthens them. To prove yourself trustworthy, you don't always need to speak. Sometimes, you need only to remain silent. 7. Stay steady when tested. In adversity, the gentleman holds fast to his way. Confucius knew that fair-weather loyalty was no loyalty at all. His disciple Zilla was brash, often reckless, but he had one quality Confucius admired deeply: constancy under pressure. When others mocked Confucius' teachings as outdated, Zilla did not slip into silence to protect himself. He stood firm, defending his master even when it cost him standing among peers. Loyalty proved in comfort, Confucius taught, was little more than performance. Loyalty proved in adversity, that was the mark of character. In his time, the stakes were high: exile, disgrace, even death could follow from standing too firmly beside an unpopular teacher. Yet Confucius held this principle as non-negotiable. Trustworthiness could not be measured when the sun was shining. It revealed itself in storms. That truth has not faded. At work, it's easy to support a colleague when they're praised. The test is when they're absent, or when gossip starts swirling. Do you join the whispers, or do you defend their reputation? The latter marks you as someone safe to stand beside. In friendships, promises are simple when they cost nothing. The test comes when the promise collides with inconvenience. Do you still show up to help with the move, even though you're tired? Do you visit the hospital, even though it unsettles you? Those are the moments when reliability is branded into memory. Even in leadership, many preach values when times are calm. But when the budget tightens, when a client is angry, when public pressure mounts, those are the crucibles where people see if words and values remain intact. A leader steady in storms earns trust that no title alone can command. Confucius' point is timeless: trust is not forged in easy moments, but in adversity. Anyone can be reliable when it's convenient. The gentleman, the person of integrity, is the one who stays steady when tested. Practical ways to show steadiness. Keep promises under pressure. Don't let inconvenience dissolve commitment. If you cannot keep it, communicate honestly rather than vanish. Defend the absent. What you say about people when they're not there is the truest test of reliability. Show up when others retreat. Even a small act of presence in a difficult time can prove your strength. Fair weather loyalty is common. Steadiness in adversity is rare and unforgettable. As Confucius taught, storms reveal who can truly be trusted. 8. Be the same in private and public. The superior man is ashamed when his words exceed his deeds. Confucius had little patience for performers. He saw rulers who delivered stirring speeches on virtue while exploiting their people behind palace walls. They issued decrees about honesty while hiding bribes in secret. To the outside world, they looked dignified; inside, they were hollow. Confucius warned that such states could never last. When the mask slips, trust disappears, and once trust disappears, collapse soon follows. For him, the test of character was consistency. Do your words match your deeds? And do your deeds hold even when no audience is watching? This principle speaks loudly today. At work, a manager who praises teamwork in presentations but takes credit for others' ideas is not truly reliable. People may smile in meetings, but privately they withdraw respect. Contrast that with the leader who thanks others in public, even for small contributions, and treats assistants with the same respect as executives. That consistency builds trust far deeper than any polished speech. In families, a parent who tells a child to always tell the truth but lies casually to neighbors teaches not honesty, but duplicity. The child sees the gap, and trust in the parent's authority weakens. But a parent who admits their own mistakes, who tries to live the values they preach, builds trust even when imperfect. Online, many people curate perfect versions of themselves for strangers, while treating those closest to them with carelessness. Yet integrity is judged by those who see you unfiltered. If your private life contradicts your public posts, the trust of those who matter most erodes. Confucius was realistic. No one's private and public selves are identical. But he believed they should be recognizable. The superior man, he said, feels shame if his words outpace his deeds, if the self he presents is far grander than the one he lives. Integrity is not perfection, it is alignment. Practical ways to apply this principle. Audit the gap. Ask yourself, would those closest to me recognize the values I present in public? If not, which side needs to shift? Choose one standard. Don't hold different codes of honesty or respect for different audiences. If it's wrong in private, it's wrong in public. Correct the drift. When you notice your words outpacing your deeds, pull back your words until your actions catch up. Confucius knew that trust collapses when people discover duplicity. But when the private and public self align, not perfectly, but recognizably, trust deepens. People know that what they see is what they'll get, wherever they meet you. 9. Link reliability with humanity. The benevolent man is trustworthy. Confucius taught that xin, trustworthiness, could never be separated from ren, humaneness. A person might keep every promise to the letter, but if they did so without care, without consideration for others' dignity, their reliability would be mechanical, even harsh. True trust, he said, is more than punctuality. It is people knowing they are safe with you, not only in their tasks but in their person. He illustrated this in his view of leadership. A ruler who enforced laws rigidly but showed no compassion might keep order for a time, but the people's loyalty would be thin. They would obey, but not follow. By contrast, a ruler who was both fair and benevolent inspired deeper trust. The people knew not only that promises would be kept, but that their well-being was valued. We can see the same divide today. In the workplace, a manager who always delivers results but humiliates staff in the process wins compliance, not trust. People will do their jobs, but they will not bring their best selves because they feel unprotected. Contrast that with the leader who insists on high standards but corrects mistakes with dignity and tact. People not only respect the reliability of the results, they respect the reliability of the person. In relationships, a partner who shows up on time but is emotionally absent is reliable in routine but not in spirit. A partner who keeps promises and shows warmth builds something stronger, a sense that both your plans and your heart are safe with them. Even in small exchanges, a friend who returns your book promptly but hands it back carelessly, with pages bent, signals thoughtlessness. Another who returns it carefully wrapped with thanks shows that reliability isn't just about what is done, but how. Confucius' point is timeless: reliability is hollow if it is not paired with humanity. Trust is not just keeping a promise, it is keeping it in a way that affirms the dignity of the other. Practical ways to link trust with humanity. Correct without crushing. Hold people to standards, but protect their dignity while you do it. Be reliable in tone, not just timing. Show up consistently with respect, not just with presence. Add care to duty. Deliver the work, return the call, fulfill the promise, but do it in a way that leaves the other person feeling valued. Confucius tied xin and ren together because he knew reliability without humanity creates fear, not trust. Real trust is when people know you will do what you say, and that you will do it with care. 10. Make trust your legacy. Without trust, we do not know how a state can stand. Confucius warned rulers that citizens might endure poverty. They might bear hardship, even harsh laws. But betrayal, the breaking of trust, they could not forgive. A government without trust was already falling, no matter how strong its armies. This was not abstract theory. In the Warring States period, kingdoms rose and fell with astonishing speed. Some boasted wealth, others commanded vast armies. Yet when the people no longer believed their ruler's word, rebellion spread like fire. No throne, however gilded, could hold without trust. The same principle lives in our personal lives. Wealth fades. Titles vanish. Achievements are forgotten. What endures is simpler: did your word prove safe? Could people rely on you, not just once, but always? That memory lasts long after status disappears. Think of the people you remember with respect. Often, it isn't their wealth or accolades you recall. It is that they showed up when it mattered. That they said little but did much. That they were steady enough to lean on. Those memories outlive possessions, promotions, or applause. Confucius himself died without riches or high office. To some, he looked like a failure, dismissed from courts, wandering with his disciples, without political power. Yet centuries later, his words spread across Asia and beyond, carried not by institutions but by the loyalty of his students. Why did they carry his teaching? Because they trusted his integrity. His legacy was not wealth or title, but reliability of character. We each have the same choice: to chase status that fades, or to build trust that endures. To be remembered for possessions that scatter, or for a word that could be leaned on. Practical ways to build trust as legacy. Choose reputation over recognition. Ask, will people say I was dependable, not, did they notice me? Think long-term. A single win gained by breaking trust is not victory, it's erosion. Protect trust even when it costs you now. Live for transmission. Like Confucius' disciples, the people closest to you will carry your legacy. Shape their memories with consistency and care. Confucius' reminder is sharp: without trust, nothing stands. With trust, everything else becomes possible, even after you are gone. Make reliability your inheritance. Let those who follow you say, their word was safe. That is a legacy no poverty can erase, and no wealth can outshine. Confucius taught that trust is the root; without it, nothing stands. With it, families endure, friendships deepen, and leaders inspire without forcing. And trust is not built in grand declarations. It is built in the quiet rhythm of life: one promise kept, one word aligned with action, one confidence guarded, one value held even when inconvenient. So here's your challenge: look at your own life. Where is your trust strong, and where is it fragile? Write one step you'll take this week to strengthen it in the comments. The act of naming it can make it real. And then, share this video with someone who has earned your trust, or with someone who may need the reminder to rebuild it. Trust grows stronger when it's spoken about and shared. Finally, subscribe for the next lesson in this series, where we'll keep turning Confucius' ancient wisdom into modern strength. Because in the end, your legacy won't be noise, bravado, or titles. It will be this simple question: could people rely on you? If the answer is yes, then you've already built something greater than wealth. You've built trust that lasts.